All right, so I guess that was just like how you found out about the job. Now, my next question, well, I guess we kind of went over this, but upon getting the job, how did you feel? Like, what were you hoping to get out of the job?
So, primarily, I was looking for a job.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking to have income happening.
Of course, that.
And, yeah, like, capitalism. So,
Yay, capitalism.
and Steve did pay us really well. That first convention I worked, he paid us all in cash. Like, after we'd finished packing up, he just sat us down, pulled out the cash wad of everything he'd made, counted off cash for each of us who'd helped out, and handed it to us. And I was kind of mind blown.
Yeah.
And it was a good chunk of cash. Um, so I was kind of like, all right, this was not as bad as I thought it would be. And the other thing that endeared me to him was, you know how I talked about how he'd stand up for people even though, like, Steve is the kind of bully who's like, no, only I get to bully my staff. So we had somebody from con security get kind of aggressive with us because to him it looked like we weren't packing up fast enough.
Oh God, one of those.
Yeah, so he actually physically shoved a table in my direction and almost hit me with it. I thought Steve was going to punch him.
Oof.
Like, I legitimately thought Steve was ready to lay this dude out.
Well, I mean,
And, like, that was something where I was like, oh. And I kind of felt good about it because he was looking out for me.
yeah, hell
The
yeah.
head of the convention, he got the head of con security involved. You know, he made sure that I gave my statement. He made sure that it was very clear that he was extremely upset with what had happened, quite understandably.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it was just this moment of, oh, wow, that was kind of cool of him.
It's like that was pretty badass.
It was! And, you know, ultimately, that was sort of... I felt like something was wrong. Here, I guess, is the other thing that I have to say. I had a very poor relationship with my mother when she was alive. She was extremely demanding and basically emotionally abusive.
Oh God, you're.
So you can see where this is going. I'm already primed to be like, all right, well, he yelled at me, but that's fine.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's probably my fault for not understanding.
Oof. Oh God. Okay, you got caught in that, and it's okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you know what? It's okay because of what you just said. That's like literally the recipe for how it just keeps going.
Pretty much. It was, well, obviously there's something wrong with me. I am the problem here.
Which you are not, by the way.
Nope. Oh, I know that now. I
Great.
definitely know that now.
Good, great. It doesn't have to turn into one of those interviews.
No. I promise, I'm okay.
All right. I mean, even if you weren't, it's cool.
Yeah, I just say that to, like, give you and the rest of your listeners some context for
Yes.
why, you know, these red flags didn't really look like red flags to me at the time.
Yeah, no, it's literally like that's people who go through that. They end up being those people who are very subservient to any authority figure, especially their bosses. So yeah, like we've all seen that anime trope.
Yep. So, that's basically how I ended up working for him.
Well, all right then, and it's all right. I get a lot of my questions. Maybe I should ask these beforehand because this next one is when did things start going off the rails?
Immediately!
Just woof.
Yeah, immediately!
Because I was like, signs, actions, behaviors. We already covered that. So
Yeah, that's the thing, is that this went downhill really fast.
I mean,
Um,
any other
Steve
okay, keep going.
kind of doesn't pretend to be anything but what he is.
He doesn't pretend to be anything but what he is.
He just thinks that what he is, i.e. a very, very angry person who takes that anger out on other people, is like an acceptable thing to be.
It's not, though.
It's not.
It's really not.
Really not.
Alright, well then. And then, I guess my other question, this one has some context. How long, I guess, I don't know, this shouldn't, like, place you or anything, but how long did you work for Steven? And, like, when you weren't on the road, like, how many hours did you work, a day or a week? And it wasn't consistent work?
So, I worked for Steve for about 5 months.
Okay.
And like I said, I mostly worked in his store, where I was getting pretty consistent hours. Honestly, if anything was going to identify me, we're probably already past that. But at least in terms of, like, however much Steve might remember. But, it was pretty consistent hours. I was working, like, a certain amount of time, 4 days a week. And, initially I was supposed to start at, like, noon and go to close, which was 8 p.m. Eventually he just had me opening. So I was working 10 to 8, 4 days a week.
Okay.
Con road trips, you were pretty much always on during con weekends. Like, I did a few of those, and it was basically an adventure in just, you get there, you have to set up, and that takes basically a full day. Sometimes into the next day, depending on how much stuff you have to set up and how early you get there. You're up when the con starts, so sometimes, 6 or 7 a.m., running until the dealer's room closes at 10 at night.
Oh, Jesus.
And some cons obviously don't have that long of an open period. Some of them, it would be like, they'd close at 8 or 9.
Yeah, I know one con, they close at 6, but then anyone who paid VIP, they get an extra hour.
Mm-hmm. It does depend on the convention.
Yeah.
But, you were basically, and even if you weren't technically working, you were kind of always on because you had to be checking in with Steve and making sure that everything was going well, and so on and so forth. So, that would basically be like a 3-4 day weekend of just exhaustion.
Oof. Oh boy. Well, and then I guess so you ran some conventions. Did you guys ever drive or fly anywhere, or was it all just local?
No. So strictly speaking, I didn't drive, but like I was in the passenger seat. Yeah, we drove to Philly and to North Carolina for conventions. I know other people obviously drove way further because Steve was doing stuff in Detroit, in California.
Mm-hmm.
Texas, which I think your other interviewer told the story of the Texas road trip from hell.
Oh yeah, of him.
I was working during that time. I was actually the one back at the store that had to coordinate all of their rentals and stuff.
Oh my God! So
Yeah.
So now, did you ever witness him falling asleep while driving?
No. That is because the 2 cons that I went to that were far away, Steve did not go to. He made me his convention manager for those cons.
Oh, okay. So because I'm always wondering, there's some conventions that happen on the same weekends, and I'm guessing there's like Steve goes to one, and then like his trusted other managers go to the other.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So he can. So Anime Pavilion could be at like 2 or 3 conventions in the span of one weekend.
2 or 3. Usually it would be at maximum 2. But there were weekends that would be like 3, or there's one weekend that has 4 major conventions the same weekend. We did all 4 of them some year. Yeah. So that was wild.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Actually, correction, I think we only did 3 that weekend, but it was still crazy because we only had 2 traveling con sets of, like, books and stuff.
Right.
Books, DVDs, etc. for the merchandise.
Right.
So for those big weekends where we had a 3rd convention, we would have to take down all the stuff in the store.
Oof. Like, take down all the stuff.
Like, all of the shelving and all of the manga that was on display and the DVDs that were on display.
Oh, you guys would just take them.
Yeah, as our 3rd set for that 3rd convention.
Wow.
Which would basically mean that 2 weekends during the summer, because there were only 2 weekends when we did 3, or 2 weekends, period, I think that we did 3, the store would just basically be barren of any kind of DVDs or books. There would be other merchandise, and we'd have to, like, fill the space with other stuff, which, by the way, I think we did an okay job of, with 0 input from Steve, but that's cool.
I've seen this dude set up at, like, a couple of conventions I go to, and it's either, like, I mean, a great job for everybody, but sometimes I'm like, this is over here, and that should be over there.
Yeah,
Be like, who plotted this? Probably Steve.
Always, if Steve is physically at the convention, definitely Steve. If he's not, some poor convention manager to whom he is giving 0 help or advice. I'm not speaking from salty experience.
What is salty?
Oh, the good news is, apparently I was so good at setup that he never actually complained about anything I did, so...
The thumbs up?
I guess.
Good job, I guess.
Hey. It was what it was.
Right.
Sometimes we literally wouldn't have, like, enough shelves for things, and that can't entirely be on Steve, obviously.
Of course.
Especially when we were breaking down store stuff, because the only, like, wire setup shelves, you know what I'm talking about. You've seen them at conventions. The only wire frames that we could bring were the ones that were in the store. The DVDs in the store are on bookcases. So we definitely did not have enough, like, physical wire frames to set up enough space for everything, and, funnily enough, Steve was usually cool about that. It was something where, like, I guess I should say, like, it was the push-pull where there were certain things that he'd be willing to be, like, super chill about, and then certain things he would just lose his mind on you. No apparent reason or pattern.
Oof. And it's like, it's like, and people like that exist, but they shouldn't, like, be bosses.
No, like, and this is especially true because he hires lots and lots of high school kids.
Which,
like,
I don't think, is that even?
It's legal as long as they're over 16.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they'd be, like, juniors and seniors.
So he's basically, so a lot of his workers are, like, people who have never even had a job before, and they don't, like, the practices, it's like, oh, he's kind of mean, but I guess that's just how work is.
Yeah, like, that's just how it be.
It be like that, but it's not supposed to be like
that. I think it genuinely helped that, me and his store manager were, like, whole adults, and we could contextualize that, no, this actually kind of isn't okay. Are you alright? I know he just got done screaming at you. Are you alright? Which, by the way, his store manager while I was working there was a phenomenal human being who physically got between me and Steve at one point when Steve was screaming at me for no reason.
Ugh.
Cannot speak highly enough of my coworkers. Pretty much.
Well, yeah, I imagine it's like they're working there because, like, we're all weebs. We just all want to have fun.
Yeah, it was. We want to be here because we love it. And I think Steve does, in his way, love the business, and he does love anime. But he's also kind of on a constant power trip, and that results in him being absolutely garbage to everybody underneath him.
Oh, boy. And then I think, Ooh boy. Well, my last question, and then if you have any like, if there's any like big things you want to like make apparent. My last question was: there any case of abuse done to you physically and emotionally, and then were there any issues with payment? Like, were you just given envelopes of money, or was there like a check system?
So for conventions, yeah, I was just given envelopes of money, or if I was the one running the, I paid myself out of the cash. Now, obviously, there was a ton of accountability for this. I had to give Steve counts every day of how much cash I'd taken in and how much had gone out.
Mm-hmm.
I had to, like, send him the math for how much I was paying myself and any other employees that I was running. Give Steve everything else. He's a terrible human being. He runs his business very tightly. So, or he runs his money very tightly, I should say. Because that's what he cares about. So, but for the store stuff, he did have, like, an accountant that did proper paychecks, so I did get, like, a proper paycheck every 2 weeks for my store work.
All right, that's good, and like taxes and stuff taken out.
Yeah, taxes and stuff were properly taken out for that.
Okay, good. So you're able to like get taxes and everything filed for that.
Yeah,
job.
no, filed. I got a W-2 at the end of the year and everything. It was all, the store work was all like properly accounted for.
Okay. I'm at least glad about that.
Yeah, he can. He can do that much. And like legally speaking, I did look into it to make sure that the convention money was under the reporting limits. It was something where, like, because it was a cash transaction and it was it totaled up under a certain amount, it doesn't end up being necessary to report, I guess.
Yeah, it's like taking your employees to a roadshow kind of situation.
Pretty much, yeah. So the ultimate. Now. That being said, with regards to money, there was a certain point where, and this was basically my tipping point on, no, I'm done. Which is going to seem silly compared to some of the other things that I've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, so, there came a point where we were doing, packing and stuff for a convention, and Steve was upset that it wasn't going quick enough. And he got very angry at me, because I was physically there. It was the other store manager's day off. For not scheduling enough people to be there on the day of packing.
For not scheduling enough.
Scheduling wasn't my job.
Yeah, no, that's not your job.
And also, calling it scheduling is really funny because except for me, the other store manager, and one or two other people, there were not set schedules. There were people that we called like, hey, are you free? Can you come in and work?
I see.
Now, they also were, like, properly logged through the time clocks and stuff when they were working in the store, but it wasn't, you'll come here on X days of the week for X hours. It was, hey, are you free? Can you physically come in and help us do stuff? Rad. Come down. So, and he threatened, this, by the way, is highly illegal, to dock my pay for it.
Yeah, like...
You cannot...
You can't do that. It's like you hear it in cartoons.
Cannot dock employees' pay. You can't not pay people for work done.
It's like you hear it in cartoons, and then it's like, wait, they really can't do that.
Yeah, legally, nope, he cannot do that. And that was sort of the moment where it's like, oh, he will do literally anything. In a fit of pique. And again, this wasn't my job. It was arguably not even the other manager's job. Because here's the thing, there was a time when we were doing, like, proper schedules for the week, planning in when certain people could and couldn't be there, and we were publishing paper schedules that people could take, and have a schedule for when they were expected to be there.
Yeah, like a job is supposed to do.
Steve had us stop doing that.
What?
Because things weren't working out or whatever, and he needed to have more people coming in more often, and we had to call people in a lot. So there was a certain point where that just stopped happening. So, like, geez, Steve, no, we didn't schedule enough people because we don't schedule.
That's like saying, no, I didn't climb the ladder because I didn't know I was supposed to.
you just, and I think you've probably gotten this impression from some of the stuff I've told you. I did a lot of work for him. I went out of my way for him. There came a point where I spent my time researching for him a lawyer that might be able to help him with a case that he felt like he needed to file against a repair shop that had done a shit job on his van.
Oh.
One of the con vans.
Right.
And I did that, like, partially on store time, partially on my own time, to get things set up for him. Like, that was the kind of just... People who were his store associates would be, like, managing his mail. I mentioned that I was the one that set up the rentals for that one awful trip. I was actually the rental go-to person in general.
Ooh.
Like, I did 90% of the calling of various places to do rentals. Literally, the only time it wasn't me doing it is if it was physically a day I was not in the store.
Whoa. Well, dang, you did... That's a lot.
Yeah. And I was being paid, like, $8.25 an hour for all of this.
Oh, Lord.
Which is technically above Virginia minimum wage, but Virginia minimum wage is terrible.
Yeah, no, it should be... I thought it would be in the double digits.
Nope.
It's in the double digits in Nebraska, and they way behind.
Yeah, no, Virginia minimum wage is $7.25, so he was paying me a whole $1 above minimum wage to run his store for him.
At that point, you should have been making assistant manager pay, but...
The actual store manager was making $10 an hour.
Dude.
Yeah. He was not making that much more than me.
Oh, boy.
And he was doing everything I was doing, and then some.
Yikes.